So part two, as we kind of move through the educational philosophies, we look first at perennialism, and it's rooted in realism. Derek asked the question, what is reality? I don't know if we can answer that. It's kind of funny, eh? When we start looking at words like that we can't even answer. Like, what is actual reality? If you could say, this is what's happening right now, it's in constant change and constant flux. Everything's moving, changing, always impermanent. So is there any stability, or can you find permanence and stability within the impermanence? That's the one thing that's always happening, is that it's changing. Well, perennialism, one of the oldest and most conservative. Basically, at the end, it says here on page 34, the aim of the educational system is the same in every age and every society where the system can exist. And that aim is to improve people. For whose benefit? How do you improve someone? What is that stigma that we're going to improve them? Is it an external validation of improvement, or is it with internal, where someone can actually say, hey, you know, I'm better, thanks. The permanent studies, again, we live in change. There's always this cognitive versus affective that's going on in here. The liberal arts comprise our intellectual heritage. So looking back through history and looking back through these great books and seeing what wisdom has come from the past. Again, a big returning to the liberal arts. Really trying to get to that serious thinking, that was going on. But today, it's all about knowledge and thinking. And again, so much focus on the thinking aspect. So much focus. We are human beings, not human thinkings. Human beings. Like, to dwell within inside the realm of the mind is only one part. I think we're missing a huge element. That's just my personal thought. We're never taught. We don't even see that there's something other than thinking, other than just being, awareness, those states that they talk about in mindfulness, those states that they talk about in meditation. The reason why so many self-help books are out there, cognitive behavioral therapy, starting to see the way that our minds work and how they influence us. Because our choices, and if we choose to listen to certain things going on inside our minds, well, that directs the way that we act. So your own personal value, your self-worth, your self-esteem. Where does that, like, these are things that I don't think that the education system, any of these that I'm looking through at this point, really kind of address. Well, some of them do a little bit. Going on into essentialism, preserving the best knowledge. They offer curricula that enable students to comprehend their history and culture. So going for the essence of things, going for the facts, just the facts, please. Essentialism, bam. I highlighted a quote here. Concern with the personal problems of adolescence has grown so excessive as to push the background of what should be the school's central concern, the intellectual development of its students. The students must be made to work hard, and nothing can really make it fun. This argument that on one hand that we have to develop the intellect, and on the other hand that it's hard work and it's not fun. One, can fun and intellect go hand in hand? And again, why are we just focusing on the intellect? So many other avenues out there. Essentialism is basically a return to basics. I kind of put down on the side here. It's like machines, and the way that they're back to basics, to standards. Sorry, it's almost like giving these monies and rewards and things like that. For okay, you have this, you've met these standards and you've done all this. It's really marginalizing some students who don't fit the way that machine goes. What standards should be considered the minimum? What is minimum education? Like, when we think about it, yeah, okay, well, we have this. Well, how low can we go? Can we just change it? North Bay, I once heard that the the beaches there would close down from E. coli bacteria that would come up after it would rain, and there was 100 parts per million that was allotted. Anything over that, and we had to close down the beaches. And the beaches started getting a lot more than that. It had 200 parts. Or in between 100 and 200. So they said, well, you know what, the state says 200, we'll raise it to 200 parts. Now, we'll close the beach after that, because people were complaining because it's like, well, we can't use the beaches. You've put the safety standard up there. So where are our standards? And I really feel the minimum competency, I underline this too, is the issue minimum competency or equal education opportunity. Are we providing our schools, are we providing our children with equal opportunity? Not from an essentialism, I don't personally feel. Emphasizing the content. I kind of feel, are we punishing students for schools' inability to educate them? Like, are we? That's a great quote. Are we punishing students for schools' inability to educate them? Making them just kind of sit in a certain way. Moving on to progressivism. It's developed from the pragmatic philosophy. It kind of goes against the perennial thinking. It was a larger part of social reform. And it was Dewey, I underlined here, that he viewed the school as a miniature democratic society in which students learn the skills necessary for democratic living. I think we made the interesting point, or Carlo, you made the interesting point there, that we have this society, we have this institutionalized educational system that is supposed to be producing individuals at the end of the day to be able to go into society, and yet we institutionalize them, but we're expecting them to be democratic at the end of the day. That doesn't make sense, and so I was actually thinking about this, and I was like, well, can you model a society inside your classroom, experiment, and say, yeah, you know what, this is going to be a society. How do we model that? What if you treated your classroom not as a place of ownership where the teacher walks in and there's all these rules and regulations that are being handed, but hey, this is our society. This is how we're going to embark. And in society, there are all sorts of different tastes and flavors, and there's different peoples and beliefs and values, and we have to try and merge and mesh and get along through this in a very dynamic process. And that is in progressivism. And I think that progressivism is it's great, but I mean, you can kind of see where like great ideas, but where is it kind of going? And I highlighted this chapter, or this paragraph here on page 40. Opposed to authoritarian teaching, over-reliance on textbook methods, memorization of data, static aims and materials, intimidation or corporal punishments form of discipline, attempts to separate education from individual experiences. But the downfall was the movement's inability to reach a consensus on the purpose of schooling. And isn't that kind of crazy that they couldn't find a purpose, why they were doing it? I mean, how key is that to have? But making a curriculum relevant, I think, is really important. And the humanistic curriculum I found, where emphasize happiness, aesthetics, spirituality, caring, and empathy. I don't think that it should be so one-sided as not to include. I think there needs to be a balance in many ways with the intellect. Having the caring teacher, having that model again of the democratic society where the students know that they're cared for. Nurturing. So I highlighted this. Teachers in schools, they say, overemphasize cognitive ability and seek to control students for the student's benefit. Or sorry, not for the student's benefit, for the benefits of adults. They see the schools as unconcerned about effective process, self-knowledge, and higher domains of consciousness. I, for me, I have to agree. It's, I mean, if we don't know our direction, if we're just providing intellect and that's it, it's just reasoning, cognitive, we're missing something. And the students themselves, I mean, really, is that life? Is that it? And we're just human thinkers here. So again, to really, for myself, a big belief is um, to have both the cognitive and the affective. Uh, maybe heavier in some areas, maybe lighter in others. I'm going to jump to Reconstructionism. These advocate greater emphasis on society-centered education that address the needs of all the social classes. And they advocate a program that critically examines a society's cultural heritage, examines controversy issues unabashedly, commits to bringing about constructive social change, cultivates a future-oriented attitude that considers school reform, and enlists students and teachers to enhance educational opportunities for all children and youth. I think what's really important is to have this bringing it back to society, so it's not just necessarily about the individual, but I think that there has to be an exchange going two ways. One, you develop the individual to be able to work with society, and you use that the society influence to go back to the individual. So there's interdependent reflection that when I see society and I'm assisting in that, I can also reflect back on myself and where my purpose in society is, and that brings about perhaps a joy, a sense of well-being, a sense of contribution, and a sense of purpose, as well as gaining the experience that the students need in order to transfer that knowledge, that experience, and that purpose between themselves. The Reconceptualist curriculum emphasizes language and communication skills, art, poetry, dance, drama, literature, psychology, and ethics. It's great with personal expression, intellectual consciousness, and reflective self-consciousness. Paulo Freire contends that Reconceptualist curricula focus on human problems that have the potential to transform the world. According to Pinar, our Reconceptualist curriculum deals with personal becoming, affiliative needs, sensitivity, and enjoyment, on page 47. And I think that this is, like, imagine that, you're learning, you learn how to enjoy life, how to enjoy, to become, to look at the needs around there and to help service others. Certainly, the Reconceptualists, they believe that current society is marked by alienation, a failure to accommodate diversity, and indifference to people's needs. And I think that the Reconstructionism, for me, I think is one of the, it marks change. You know, the changing curriculum has to be dynamic. The world is changing so quickly. They talk very briefly here. I'll do the international component. He maintains that students must acquire an awareness of global events and an understanding of worldwide systems. These systems are social, political, economical, physical, cultural, communicative, and historical. This new curriculum would focus on the Earth's ecosystem and world problems. According to Spring, it might address Western imperialism, Arab nationalism, and the growing economic influence in China and India. So as we come through, it's almost half an hour now that I've gone with this. Some major questions that I'll just ask. Where do you see yourself? One, what is your philosophy that guides? Two, do you find that you can connect with the school that you're either working for, that you want to work for? Which model of curriculum or philosophy do you find yourself gravitating towards? And I would dare ask, what is the purpose of education? I would throw that out there. And would you find that there is, or there should be, a more weighted on the intellect or the affective in your life? I'll be so bold, I don't know if you want to share this on the post of that, but Are you happy? Have you learned in school how to be happier? Have you felt that the school system that you've had has improved you? Might have given you the ability to think in different ways, and maybe that's an improvement, but do you find that you are a better human being for the knowledge that you have? Well, we'll leave that there, and I'll check the post to see if I can add in a couple supplementary things, some TED Talks. Subra Mitra's Hole in the Wall, I think, is great. It shows the kind of interesting curriculum where you just, it's not even a curriculum, it's kind of drop off some computers and watch kids go nuts with it, exploring. And of course there's Sir Ken make sure I got this right, Ken Robertson, who talks about the way our school system's kind of working. Oh, I wanted to do an analogy of a hamburger. I was thinking, we have all these different sort of styles of teaching and that. Well, what if, rather than having one pocket of school, like where we have, say, Southern Ontario, we have the Toronto District School Board, and all the curriculum and everything's pretty much the same. It really sounds like we're making hamburger. Hamburger is great. You make burgers out of it, and most people like burgers, if you're into that. But you're throwing all different kind of cuts of meat into that. You've got prime rib, you've got T-bone steak, you've got some of the extra stuff that goes into burgers. Maybe they're not so good, but you're putting this all in, and you're mixing it to get hamburger at the end of the day. And our students are like, hamburger. What if you had a school that, produce hamburger if you want hamburger, but that you could also go to a place and get T-bone steaks, top sirloin. You can get roasts. You can have all these different varieties from one cow of society. What a terrible analogy. Sorry if you're vegetarian. Could there be a way that we could set up our schooling system so that there's like the Montessori style schoolings, the Waldorf style schoolings, but all the holistic style schoolings, all of these sort of things as little bubbles within inside their districts. So you as a parent can say, you know what? I can choose the philosophy of the school. I can say this particular type of school meets with my philosophy, a catering to the type of student. If you see, like some parents love to send their kids to Montessori, and the experiences I've had with Montessori students are phenomenal. Great school, kids love it. It's wonderful, and it's been neat to see the kids interact in those sort of ways. So I guess what I'm saying, like, imagine you could say, you know what, I really believe in this. This is the hardcore data that I need. Therefore, I'm going to go into essentialism, or I want a more humanistic approach. I'm gonna go to reconstructionism. I'm going to go to a more of a holistic style. What if all of these were still kind of funded by the public board? I don't know if it's possible, but take the schools that are there, and you're going to be, some kids are going to be transferred over here and move there. But I find it kind of crazy that we have such a variety of cultures, such a variety of individual needs that we're differentiating with inside the classrooms. It would almost make, in some ways, more sense to say, like, look, why not differentiate schools? You can have these sort of things, and maybe it's my ignorance. Maybe this is already happening. I know with private schools that I think that they have a lot more flexibility with how to do that. At the end of the day, it's still a business that they have to do, but that there's those sort of expectations that are there. So I'll throw that out as an idea, because really, all of these different philosophies, who's right and who's wrong. I have my own personal views, but at the end of the day, I do not know the future. And I don't know if, raising students in this one way is actually going to be beneficial. This is the crazy thing about evolutionary processes. Even within societies, as they move on from generation to generation, is that we don't know where we're going to end up. We have our choices, but we've got to trust the direction that we go in. Do we want to have very intellectual, very scientific-based, rational individuals who can break down, problem solve, and very highly based on the intellect, or do we want people who are going to be able to look in more of an empathetical view of the world? Do we want both? And how do we blend those two together? Again, that's the million-dollar question. Anyway, this has gone on for 35 minutes. I hope that it's just basically like a podcast and that you're not actually staring at the screen looking at me talk, because it's not that entertaining. Anyway, enjoy the questions, answer them. I look forward to your posts, and we'll see you online.